There's an old saying I've lived by my whole life. If you have to force your friends to sit at the table, it ain't a dinner party. It's a hostage situation. And right now, folks, the United States is setting the table, ringing the dinner bell, and looking out the window, only to see our oldest buddies walking down the driveway away from the house 1 minute ago. And I mean, this just happened. Poland and Italy, two of the staunchest allies this country has ever had, looked at the deal on the table and said, no thanks. They officially ditched the new Board of Peace. And if you think this is just some boring paperwork shuffle in Europe, you are dead wrong. This is the sound of the United States losing its grip. This is the sound of global clout evaporating into thin air. Now, before I tell you exactly why they walked out and what it means for your wallet and your safety, do me a quick favor. If you want the straight talk that the cable news suits are too scared to give you, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Just hit it. It tells me you're listening, and it helps me keep the lights on here so we can keep having these chats. I appreciate that. All right, let's get into the meat of this. You've heard about this board of peace, right? It was pitched as a big fix, the new club. The idea was simple. The United Nations is broken, which, let's be honest, nobody argues with that. So we're going to start our own club. A club meant to fix the mess in Gaza and then fix the whole world. Sounds nice on paper. Who doesn't want peace? But here is the catch, and it's a big one. This isn't a round table like King Arthur had. This is a head of the table situation. The rules of this new board say that the chairman, our president, is chairman for life. He holds the veto power. He calls the shots. And to get a permanent seat, you got to pony up $1 billion. It's pay to play, and the house always wins. So you look at Italy. Italy has been our friend since we rebuilt them after the big war. They looked at the contract. Their prime minister, Meloni, who actually likes our leadership usually, she had to turn to her people and say, we can't sign this. Why? Because the Italian Constitution literally says they can only join international groups where everyone is equal. They can't join a club where one guy holds the keys to the kingdom. It's illegal for them. Then you got Poland. Poland knows what it's like to be pushed around by big empires. They've been fighting for their sovereignty for 1,000 years. Their prime minister, Tusk, looked at this board of peace and saw that it wasn't about partnership. It was about submission. He said, under these circumstances, we are out. Think about that. Poland, the country that begs for U.S. bases, the country that loves America more than some Americans do. They just looked at an American initiative and said, we'll pass. This is what happens when you confuse leadership with command. Leadership is getting people to follow you because they trust you. Command is telling people to follow you because you said so. We used to lead. Now it looks like we're just barking orders, and the world is starting to put in earplugs. When your friends stop showing up, you don't blame the traffic. You look in the mirror. And right now, the reflection ain't pretty. We are losing the room, folks. And when you lose the room, you lose the world. Now let's peel back the onion a little bit more because it gets stinkier the deeper you go. You might be sitting there thinking, so what if Italy and Poland don't join? We got the biggest military. We got the biggest economy. We don't need them. Let me tell you why that is dangerous thinking. See, for the last 80 years, basically my whole lifetime, the deal was this. America's the big brother. We protect the little guys. We keep the shipping lanes open. And in exchange, they back us up when we get into a scrap. It wasn't charity. It was insurance. When we went to Afghanistan after 9/11, NATO went with us. Poland went with us. Italy went with us. They bled with us. But this new board of peace, it tears up that insurance policy and replaces it with a protection racket. When you tell a proud country like Poland, hey, give us $1 billion, sign a paper saying you are loyal to me personally, and maybe I'll protect you, but I have the right to veto anything you say. That ain't an alliance. That is a mob shakedown. It's Tony Soprano stuff, plain and simple. And these leaders in Europe, they aren't stupid. They read the fine print. They saw the part about the chairman for life. Now, in America, we don't do for life. We do 4 years, maybe 8. We fought a whole revolution to get away from guys who rule for life. So when we try to export that idea overseas, it scares the daylights out of people. It makes us look unstable. It makes us look like the very thing we used to fight against. Donald Tusk in Poland, he looked at this board and he didn't just see a bad deal. He saw a trap. If he signs that paper, he is telling his own people that their vote matters less than the vote of a guy in Washington. No politician can survive that. It's political suicide. And Meloni in Italy, she's tough. She's a fighter. But she knows that if she agrees to a system where Italy is permanently a second-class citizen, her government falls. The Italians are proud people. They gave us the Roman Empire. For crying out loud, they aren't going to pay $1 billion to sit at the kids' table. So what happens now? This is the scary part. When you push your friends away, they don't just disappear. They start looking for new friends, or they start looking out only for themselves. We are creating a vacuum. You know what a vacuum is? Is an empty space. And in geopolitics, empty spaces get filled. If America isn't the reliable partner anymore, maybe these countries start building their own nukes. Maybe they start making side deals with other big powers, and I don't have to tell you who those are. We are literally pushing Europe to go it alone. And a Europe that doesn't need America is a Europe that doesn't listen to America. We are trading real power, the power of influence, for a fake title on a piece of paper. You got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth losing the people who have watched our back for decades just so we can have a club where we make all the rules? It feels good to be the boss. Sure, but it's lonely at the top, and it's a heck of a lot more dangerous when nobody is guarding the door downstairs. We are watching the dismantling of the West brick by brick, and we are the ones swinging the sledgehammer. You know, there's a specific kind of silence that happens when the biggest guy in the room gets told no. I've seen it in union negotiations. I've seen it at family reunions. And right now, the whole world is hearing it coming out of Washington. Because here's the thing about Poland and Italy walking away. They are what we call bellwethers. That's a fancy word for the sheep at the front of the herd with the bell around its neck. And where they go, others follow. Think about Poland for a second. Poland is practically the captain of the Eastern European team, the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They look to Poland to see which way the wind is blowing. If the Polish prime minister says this border peace is a bad deal, you better believe those smaller countries are tearing up their checks right now. We just lost the entire eastern flank of NATO in one afternoon. And Italy is a G7 country. They are a cultural superpower. When Italy walks out, they give permission to every other country in Europe to say, hey, if the Italians aren't doing it, why should we? Suddenly, this exclusive club that was supposed to run the world looks a lot like an empty room with a very expensive cover charge. And let's talk about that cover charge again, because I don't think people realize how insulting it is. $1 billion to a regular person, that's a lot of zeros. But to a country like Italy, which is already swimming in national debt, asking them to cough up $1 billion just to have a seat at the table, it's not just expensive, it's humiliating. It's like inviting someone to your house for Thanksgiving and charging them for the turkey. The Italians didn't just reject the money, they rejected the disrespect. They rejected the idea that American friendship is something you buy off a shelf like a can of soup. So now the White House is scrambling. I can guarantee you the phones are ringing off the hook in diplomatic offices all over the world. They are probably offering discounts now. Hey, sign up today and we'll knock 10% off. But you can't discount dignity. Once you've told the world that your alliance is a business transaction, you can't go back to pretending it's a brotherhood. And here is the kicker, folks. The people who are happiest about this, it ain't us. It ain't the Europeans. It's the guys sitting in Moscow and Beijing. They are watching this board of peace fall apart and they are laughing. They didn't have to lift a finger. They didn't have to launch a single missile or hack a single computer. We did their work for them. We drove a wedge between us and our best friends, and all they had to do was sit back and watch the show. They know that a lonely America is a weak America. They know that without Poland, our reach into Russia's backyard is gone. They know that without Italy, our grip on the Mediterranean loosens. We are literally shrinking our own footprint on the global stage because we got too greedy. We tried to sell protection, and instead, we sold our reputation. And let me tell you, reputation is the one thing you can't buy back, not even for $1 billion. You know, my daddy used to take me to the county fair when I was a kid, and there was always this one game, the ring toss. You'd pay a quarter, you'd throw the ring, and it would bounce right off the bottle every single time. Why? Because the game was rigged. The carney running the booth made sure nobody could win unless he wanted them to win. That is exactly what this veto power on the board of peace is. It's a rigged game. See, the United States told these countries, come join our new board to solve the wars in Gaza, to solve the mess in Ukraine. But then we added the fine print. The chairman, that's us, can veto any decision, any vote, any idea that he doesn't like. Imagine you are the prime minister of Poland. You put your $1 billion on the table and you sit down, you say, I think we should send peacekeepers to this region. And the U.S. chairman just leans back and says, nah, veto. Your vote didn't count. Your money is gone. You just paid $1 billion for the privilege of being ignored. That ain't a partnership, folks. That's a monarchy. And that is why the United States is losing global clout faster than a tire loses air after running over a box of nails. Clout isn't just about having big guns. Clout is about people believing that you are fair. When we set up a system that is openly unfair, we aren't just losing Poland and Italy, we are losing the moral high ground. We used to be the country that stood up for the little guy. We wrote the book on democracy. Now we are rewriting the book on dictatorship and trying to sell it to our friends. And think about the name for a second. The Board of Peace. It sounds almost holy, doesn't it? But how do you build peace when you start by bullying your allies? You cannot build a cathedral on a foundation of quicksand. The real tragedy here is that the world actually needs leadership right now. Look at the Middle East, look at Eastern Europe. It's a powder keg. People are dying every single day. They are desperate for a solution. They were hoping America had a plan. Instead of a plan, we gave them an invoice. We looked at the suffering in the world and saw a business opportunity. We saw a chance to consolidate power, and the world saw right through it. That's the embarrassing part. We thought we were being slick. We thought we could dress up this power grab as a humanitarian mission, but the Italians and the Poles, they've been around for centuries. They know a hustle when they see one. So now, not only do we not have a functioning board, but we have damaged the trust that takes decades to build. When you try to trick your friends, they don't just get mad, they get distant. And a distant Europe is a dangerous thing for America. We are turning into that grumpy old man in the neighborhood who yells at kids to get off his lawn and then wonders why nobody comes to visit when he's sick. We are isolating ourselves, and we are doing it under the banner of peace. It's ironic, isn't it? In the name of peace, we are starting a diplomatic war with our own family. Now, watch what happens next. I've seen this movie before, and I know exactly how the script goes. The White House is going to come out swinging. They aren't going to admit they messed up. No, sir. They are going to blame the customer for not liking the bad product. You're going to hear them call Italy and Poland cheap. You're going to hear them say, oh, these Europeans, they just want a free ride. They don't want to pay their fair share. Don't you believe a word of it. That is what we call putting lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. These countries spend billions on their own defense. Poland spends a higher percentage of their money on their military than almost anybody else in NATO. They aren't cheap. They are proud. There is a big difference. Calling them cheap because they won't pay a bribe is like getting mad at your neighbor for not paying you to mow his own lawn. But here is where it hits you, right at your kitchen table. You might be thinking, okay, old man, so the diplomats are fighting. What does that have to do with the price of eggs? Everything, it has everything to do with it. The reason your dollar is worth something, the reason you can go to the store and buy things without eating a wheelbarrow full of cash is because the world trusts America. The US dollar is the king of the world because our alliances are the king of the world. When countries trust us, they buy our debt, they use our money, they keep our economy floating. But if Poland and Italy and the rest of Europe decide that America is just a bully, they stop trusting us. And when they stop trusting us, they stop trusting our money. Imagine if Europe decides to trade in euros instead of dollars. Imagine if they make a deal with China to use their money, and suddenly all those dollars come flooding back home. Inflation wouldn't just be a headache, it would be a heart attack. We are talking about the cost of gas, the cost of bread, the cost of your retirement savings. All of it is tied to this idea that America is the leader of the free world. If we lose that title, we lose the perks that come with it. We are gambling with the full faith and credit of the United States just to satisfy the ego of a chairman for life. It is the most expensive ego trip in history, and you and I are the ones footing the bill. And look at the company we are keeping now. If the democracies, the free countries, the good guys are walking out the door, who is left in the waiting room? Who is going to join this board of peace? I'll tell you who. Dictators, thugs, countries that are desperate or corrupt. If you can't get the choir boys to join your club, you end up filling the seats with the gang members. Is that who we want to be? Do we want the Board of Peace to be a collection of the world's worst actors just because they were the only ones willing to pay the cover charge? That ain't peace. That's a cartel. And America used to be the sheriff, not the godfather. We are trading our badge for a pinky ring, and it is a tragedy to watch. Now, let me ask you a serious question. When was the last time you saw a guy win a fist fight against three other guys all by himself? In the movies? Sure. In real life, he gets pummeled, and that is exactly where we are heading. We are walking into a global bar fight, and we just told our best friends to wait outside because they didn't pay the cover charge. See, military power isn't just about how many missiles you have. It's about geography. It's about having friends in the right neighborhoods. Poland sits right next to the bear. They're the front line. If trouble starts with Russia, we need Poland's airfields. We need their roads. We need their hospitals. Italy. They control the Mediterranean Sea. If we need to move ships to the Middle East to stop a war, we need Italian ports. We need their permission if they aren't on the board. If they aren't part of the team, we lose that access. Suddenly, the Atlantic Ocean looks a whole lot wider. Suddenly, fighting a war in Europe or the Middle East becomes a logistical nightmare. We are making it harder for our own troops to do their job. We are putting our own boys and girls in more danger because our politicians wanted to play chairman for life. And don't think for a second that our enemies don't know this. Weakness is provocative. When a predator sees an animal separated from the herd, that is when it attacks. By pushing Poland and Italy away, we are basically putting a kick me sign on our back. We are inviting aggression. We built this board of peace to stop wars. Remember, that was a sales pitch. Join the board, save the world. But by being so arrogant, by demanding cash for cooperation, we have actually made war more likely. We have shown the world that the West is divided. And a divided West is a green light for every dictator with a grudge. We are trading real strategic security for a fantasy. We are trading the Iron Curtain of alliances for a velvet rope that nobody wants to stand behind. It's not just bad business, it's bad strategy. It is reckless. It is the kind of mistake that historians write books about 100 years later, asking what were they thinking? And the worst part, we are doing it to ourselves. Nobody forced us to write these rules. Nobody forced us to ask for $1 billion. We woke up one morning and decided to shoot ourselves in the foot. And now we are complaining that we have a limp. We are isolating ourselves on an island of our own making. And let me tell you, islands are great for vacations, but they are terrible places to be when the tide starts rising. And folks, the tide is rising fast. There's one thing I have learned after all these years on this earth. You cannot buy a handshake. You can buy a signature. Sure, you can buy a nod, but a handshake, a real one, where you look the other guy in the eye and you know his word is good, that is not for sale. And that is exactly why this board of peace is doomed. Think about it. The whole point of this board was supposed to be fixing the big messes, Gaza, Ukraine, the places where people are shooting at each other. To fix those, you need trust. You need everyone in the room to believe that the guy at the head of the table is fair. But we just told the world the guy at the head of the table is chairman for life. And if you don't like it, pay $1 billion or get out. Now, if our friends, Poland and Italy, people who actually like us, look at that deal and run for the hills, what do you think our enemies are going to do? Do you think the guys fighting in the Middle East are going to say, oh, sure, and let me sign up for that? Of course not. If you can't even get your brother to come to the family barbecue, you sure as heck aren't going to get the neighbor who hates your guts to show up. We have built a clubhouse that nobody wants to play in. It is empty real estate. And let's talk about that title again. Chairman for life. That is the kind of title you expect from a guy wearing a military uniform with 50 fake medals on his chest in a country you can't find on a map. It is not a title for the President of the United States. It sounds un-American. We fought wars to stop kings. We fought wars to stop dictators. And now we are writing treaties that sound like they were written by one. It is embarrassing. It makes us look like we have forgotten who we are. And the worst part is, while we are playing dress up with these fancy titles, the real problems are getting worse. The bombs are still falling. The soldiers are still dying. The world is on fire. And we are standing there trying to sell fire insurance that nobody wants to buy. We are wasting time, precious time. Every day we spend arguing with Italy about $1 billion entry fee is a day we aren't spending actually solving the problem. We are rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic while the iceberg is staring us right in the face. And don't think the American people don't see this. We aren't blind. We know the difference between a leader and a boss. A leader stands in the front. A boss sits in the back and counts the money. Right now, America is acting like the boss, and the rest of the world is realizing they don't have to work for us anymore. We are losing the moral argument. And once you lose that, you are just another bully on the playground, and bullies eventually get punched in the nose. Sometimes I look at Washington and I wonder if the folks in charge are drinking the water straight out of the Potomac, because there is absolutely no common sense left in that town. None. They seem to think that because we are the United States of America, every other country is just a branch office. They think they can treat foreign leaders like middle management. Do what I say, pay the fee, and keep your mouth shut. Well, here's a newsflash for the suits in D.C. Donald Tusk isn't a junior employee. Georgia Meloni isn't an intern. They are the elected leaders of sovereign nations. They have their own flags, their own armies, and their own pride. When you treat them like children, they don't just go to their room without supper. They walk away. It reminds me of the guy who runs the homeowners association in every neighborhood in America. You know, the type, he gets a little bit of power, a little badge, and suddenly he thinks he's the king of England. He starts measuring your grass with a ruler. He starts fining you for painting your mailbox the wrong shade of beige. That is exactly what America is doing on the world stage right now. We are the bad HOA president. We are walking around with a clipboard, handing out fines and demanding dues and wondering why nobody wants to come to the block party. We are so obsessed with being the chairman that we forgot how to be a neighbor. And this obsession with control, it's dangerous. It blinds you. While we are busy trying to force Italy to sign a loyalty pledge, the real threats are out there building real alliances. You think the bad guys are asking for $1 billion entrance fee? No, they are offering deals. They are building roads. They are making friends. We are literally pushing the world into their arms. And look at Meloni in Italy again. She's a firecracker. She represents a new kind of Europe, a Europe that cares about its own borders, its own identity. If we can't get along with her, who can we get along with? If we drive away the people who actually share our values, we are going to wake up one day and realize we are the only democracy left standing. We are becoming the lonely superpower. And let me tell you, being lonely is fine when you're fishing. It is terrifying when you are trying to stop World War III. Washington needs to wake up. They need to put down the clipboard, stop counting the money, and start shaking hands again. Real handshakes. Because if this board of peace falls apart, and it looks like it already has, it's not just an embarrassment. It is a signal to every enemy we have that the United States is officially open for business, but closed for friendship. And folks, you can't fight a war with just business partners. You need brothers. Right now, we are short on both. Now, you have to ask yourself, if the smartest guys in the room, our best friends in Europe, are walking away from the table, what does the table look like tomorrow morning? I'll tell you exactly what it looks like. It looks like a ghost town. See, alliances are like a volunteer fire department. When your house catches fire, you don't care about politics. You don't care about who voted for who. You just care that the truck shows up and puts the water on the flames. For 80 years, America was the fire chief. We organized the volunteers. We made sure everyone had a hose. But with this board of peace, we just walked into the fire station, fired all the volunteers, and told them, from now on, I'm the only one who drives the truck. And if you want to ride in the back, you pay me $1 billion. Guess what happens next time there is a fire? The truck doesn't have enough guys to hold the hose. We are literally dismantling the safety net that has kept you safe since World War II. When we push Italy away, we lose the Mediterranean. When we push Poland away, we lose the buffer with Russia. We are stripping the armor off our own tank piece by piece, and then bragging about how shiny the paint looks underneath. And let's be real about the money. $1 billion. That's chump change to a government. The U.S. government spends that before breakfast. We don't need their money. We need their loyalty. We need their bases. We need their intelligence. We need their air. By demanding cash, we are stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. We are trading invaluable strategic assets for a rounding error in the federal budget. It is the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals. And we are the ones proposing it. And here's the scary thought. If Poland and Italy can say no to the President of the United States, do you think China is scared? Do you think Iran is shaking in their boots? No, they are taking notes. They see that America's word isn't what it used to be. They see that our coalition is crumbling, and a crumbling coalition is an invitation to chaos. We are entering a dangerous new world, folks. A world where America shouts and nobody listens. A world where we have the title of chairman, but we are presiding over an empty room. The arrogance is blinding us. We think we are too big to fail, but history is full of empires that thought they were too big to fail right up until the moment they fell apart. Rome didn't fall in a day, but it started to crack when it stopped treating its allies with respect. We are cracking the foundation of the West, and we are doing it with a smile on our faces, thinking we are winning. Winning. Winning is having friends who will fight and die for you. Losing is sitting alone on a throne that you bought with your own ego. And right now, we look like the loneliest winners on the planet. So, folks, where does that leave us? We are standing at the end of the dock watching the ship sail away, and we are the ones who untied the rope. We wanted a board of peace. We wanted a club where America could snap its fingers and the world would jump. Instead, we got a lesson in humility that we are too stubborn to learn. Poland looked at the deal and walked. Italy looked at the price tag and laughed. And now the United States is standing there holding a gavel, presiding over an empty room. This isn't just a diplomatic blunder. This is a tragedy. We had the chance to unite the free world against the darkness rising in the East. We had the chance to lock arms with our brothers and sisters in Europe and say, we stand together, but we blew it. We got greedy. We got arrogant. We tried to charge admission to our own friendship, and we found out the hard way that friendship isn't something you can monetize. And now the world is a colder, more dangerous place. The bad guys are watching. They see the cracks in the foundation. They see that America is willing to trade its oldest allies for a quick buck and a fancy title, and they are smiling. But here's the thing about Americans. We are resilient. We make mistakes, sure, big ones, but we also know how to fix them. The politicians might be blind, but the people aren't. You see what's happening. You know that a strong America is a generous America, not a selfish one. You know that true power comes from respect, not from a ransom note. We need to get back to basics. We need to remember that our strength doesn't come from a chairman for life or a billion-dollar check. It comes from the fact that when trouble starts, the world calls us because they know we will answer. If we stop answering, if we stop being the good guys, we lose everything. I hope the folks in Washington wake up before it's too late. I hope they realize that you can't lead the world if nobody is following you. I want to thank you for listening to an old man ramble today. It means a lot. The news won't tell you this stuff because they are too busy reading the press releases. But here we talk about the real deal. So if you want to keep hearing the truth, the unvarnished, gritty truth about what is happening to our country, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button, hit the like, share this video with someone who needs a wake-up call. Let's build our own community right here where common sense still means something. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep your powder dry, and never forget who you're supposed to be.